Howdy, everybody! Since current conditions are still such that we can't meet inside our fabulous Zeiss Planetarium at the Chabot Space and Science Center, doesn't mean we can't go outside and look up at the real sky ourselves. This short presentation will help guide you to find several bright stars and constellations. For the last week of May into early June, from about 10 p.m. to 11 p.m., we are transitioning from spring into the summer season of constellations, and it's these I'll be pointing out. By the way, if you weren't already aware, yes, the constellations have seasons. For example, you'll never see Andromeda, the chain lady, during the summer, and likewise, you'll never see Borealis, the herdsman, in the winter. We'll meet Borealis in just a bit. As you probably already know, the Earth has 4 seasons: spring, summer, fall, and winter. Well, the constellations also have seasons, having to do with the Earth's orbital path around the Sun. That and the fact that we can only see stars by looking away from the Sun at night, which changes our view of the stars throughout the year. Unfortunately, unless you're at a good dark sky site, most constellations will be somewhat hard to see fully, but most constellations have at least a few bright stars to help identify them, and the better your viewing location, the more you'll be able to see. A good first step to finding the constellations is done by knowing your compass directions. We could easily do this without a compass, using a star grouping that almost everyone is familiar with, the Big Dipper. First, find the Dipper with its curving handle and bowl, which is high up in the sky at this time of year. The 2 stars at the end of the bowl are called the pointers, because if you take the distance between them and extend that distance out about 5 times, you'll come to a semi-bright star known as Polaris, and otherwise known as the North Star. It's the only star in the entire sky that stays pretty much right where it is, so no matter what time of night it is or even what month of the year it is, all you need to do is face it, and you'll always be facing due north, with east directly to your right, west directly to your left, and south directly behind you. Good, eh? All the other stars wheel around this pivot point anti-clockwise, making them appear to rise in the east and set in the west. This is, of course, an illusion caused by the Earth's spin, which gives the appearance that the stars are moving, when in fact it is the Earth that's moving. If you think of the Earth as a spinning top, and you extend the Earth's North Pole straight up into the sky, it points almost directly at Polaris. I should also point out that the Big Dipper is not a constellation. It's only part of the constellation Ursa Major, the Great Bear. To see him a bit more easily, let's turn from our northern-facing view to face the southern horizon like so. The Big Dipper is what we call an asterism, which is defined as a familiar star grouping. Using Polaris, we found all the compass directions, but Polaris is also at the end of the Little Dipper's handle, whose official name is Ursa Minor, the Little Bear, and our next constellation. It's a bit faint, but from Polaris, you might be able to trace its curving handle to its bowl. The 2 brighter stars at the end of the bowl are called the Guardians, because they seem to march around the North Star like protective sentries throughout the night. We use the pointers in the Big Dipper's bowl to find Polaris and the Little Dipper. Now, let's use the Big Dipper's curving handle to find our next constellation. Simply follow the arc of the Dipper's handle in a continuing arcing line to find the bright star Arcturus, which is in the lap of Borealis, the herdsman. In other words, follow the arc to Arcturus. He's got a flat triangular cap, a large head, a triangular body that appears to be in a sitting position, his leg and foot, and he's smoking a pipe. A simple shepherd keeping watch over his flock. To find our next constellation, continue that arcing line from the Dipper's handle, go through Arcturus in Borealis, and speed on to the bright star Spica, which is in the rump of Virgo, the Virgin, located in the southeastern sky. Most of her stars are pretty faint, and her overall shape is pretty rough, as an approximation of a woman lying down, but she has a head, one arm pointing up, a body, two legs, and of course, her shiny rump star Spica. Virgo is our first zodiacal constellation this evening. As you might know, all the signs of the zodiac are constellations. What you may not realize, though, is that the zodiacal constellations appear to form a ring around our planet that, when viewed from the ground, appears to form a line in the sky going from east to west. We call this line the ecliptic, and it's only along this line that the sun, moon, and planets move. This is why the zodiacal constellations are so significant to astrologers. Not that astronomy scientists believe in the pseudoscience of astrology, most don't, but astrologers were some of history's first astronomers, and for their early work we are in their debt. Since we found one zodiacal constellation, let us locate the others that are up at this time. To the left of Virgo, and just above the eastern horizon, we find Libra, the scales. Unfortunately, Libra is very faint, so you probably won't see it unless you're at a good dark sky sight on a moonless night. But if you are, you can see its triangular top and its two balancing arms. For those of you too young to know about the ancient technology, scales were used to weigh things by putting an item of unknown weight on one side of the scale and then adding known weights to the other side until the two sides became perfectly balanced. The known weights would then be added to give the weight of the object. Nowadays, it's all done electronically with digital readouts. But anyways, back to our zodiacal constellations. To the right or west of Virgo is the regal constellation Leo, the lion. Leo is well formed with enough bright stars to make him relatively easy to see. He has a head, neck, body, legs, and tail. Leo's brightest star is Regulus, located in his front paw. The next zodiacal constellation to the right of Leo is Cancer, the crab. Now, like Libra, you will never see the crab because it's made up of really faint stars, but it can be done from a good dark sky sight. He's also a very simple constellation made up of a kind of squashed rectangle with a couple of single arms coming out from his head to the left and right. Leaving the ecliptic with its zodiacal constellations, our next constellation is the small but pretty Corona Borealis, the northern crown. It can be found just behind the head of Boötes, the herdsman. The semi-bright star in its center is appropriately called Gemma. The open end of the northern crown points towards the squarish head of our next constellation, Hercules the Strongmen. That square is the asterism called the keystone, and from there you might be able to make out the rest of him. A man running along while brandishing a large club, an activity typical of strongmen back in the day, apparently. Found just behind Hercules is Lyra, the lyre, a small Greek harp marked with the sixth brightest star out of the entire sky, Vega. Our last constellation for the month is Draco the Dragon. He's upside down in this south-facing view, but here he is right side up, with a squarish head, long neck, his feet, and his long tail, which arcs its way over to the Little Dipper between the bowls of both the Big and Little Dippers. And that's it. There are other smaller or fainter constellations out there, which I encourage you to look for using a good book and maybe a pair of binoculars too. Speaking of good books, I cannot more highly recommend the book The Stars, A New Way to See Them by the author H.A. Rey, who you may know as the same author who wrote the Curious George books. Rey was a scientist who wasn't satisfied with the way modern star charts were drawn. The astroscientists were not interested in the characters, objects, or stories behind the constellations, so for convenience, they just connected the brighter stars into weird geometric shapes, slapped on their Greek names, many of which meant nothing to the common person, and left it at that. That's all fine and well for them, but for us regular folk, we're more interested in the fun stuff. If you really want to learn the constellations, get Rey's book, which we usually sell here at Chabot's Starry Night gift shop, or from Amazon for about $17. I'd also recommend getting a pair of binoculars before getting a telescope. Binoculars are cheaper and easier to use, and there are many wonderful deep sky objects that can actually be best seen with just a pair of binoculars that are noted in Ray's book. If you do want to get a telescope, ask us or research on the web how to make an informed purchase. Be warned, there are a lot of bad scopes out there with cheap components and shaky, muddy, fuzzy views that will disappoint you every time. A good scope will inspire you and your children to a lifetime of deep space exploration and an appreciation of science and nature in general. If you're interested in getting into the hobby of astronomy, joining a local astronomy club can be most helpful. Chabot is partnered with the EAS, the East Bay Astronomical Society, which has many activities and resources you'll find essential to helping get started in this amazing and beautiful study of our natural universe. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this content, be sure to click the thumbs up button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell notification icon to find out when new content has been uploaded. This will really help our channel to grow, which would make us happy. And we'll see you in the future.